Hello. Just setting up here. Let's see. We will begin shortly. I like a thumbs up. Cool. Right back. Okay. I'm back. Get a sip of water. Okay. Unpinned message. Cool. And okay, hello, Jeremy Borno. And hello, Nadia. And how's everything? Everything is cool. Everything is cool. One of these, well, I don't know. Should I just bite the bullet and get a ring light? Because I'm always having this Rembrandt shadow, but whatever, it's fine. Don't have the best lighting in the world, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, lighting is a thing, right? That's why they have directors of photography in movies. They get paid because it's a job, right? I'm not a professional YouTuber. Okay, so yeah, thank you for joining. Or maybe you'll watch this video later. Yeah, welcome to the Black Ponder. I'm the host, Neil Trotter of the channel, and this is a philosophy channel for those who may not know. We make videos about philosophy, specifically philosophical texts, but sometimes we do these live streams where we talk about philosophical topics. And I started doing the live streams because it was a way for me to level myself up level up my philosophy game, right? My philosophy skills. I call myself a philosophy hobbyist or enthusiast, but let's actually become a philosopher, amateur philosopher. I don't have a degree in philosophy. I don't know, I think that means something. Maybe some people don't, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't get paid to do philosophy, but I would like to actually become, a philosopher. But how do you do that? You can't just talk at people. Right? Make videos and just talking at people. You gotta talk with people. Gotta have conversations with people. So yeah, I think that's a huge part of philosophy. Talking with people in dialogue, and maybe you're talking about things you disagree with, or you're trying to share ideas, and maybe some people don't agree with those ideas, but then you learn how to talk with them in constructive ways to maybe give a persuasive argument to those ideas, or just go back and forth, and maybe nobody agrees on anything, but a constructive conversation nonetheless, which will lead to both people having a stronger sense of what they thought of beforehand. And I think that's a huge part of philosophy. So I do this in live stream. I also do this in real life too, with people, in person. So I'm trying to bump it up. Anyway, so what we're going to talk about today is the concept of self-actualization. That's what we're going to talk about today. And self-actualization, let me check here to see if everything is going cool. Just a levels check. Yeah, self-actualization. So that's a big thing here on the Black Ponder. So the Black Ponder, this YouTube channel, there's lots of themes that go on. And Nadia, you asked how's everything. Everything's good. Not to be rude, how are you? Hope everything's going good on your neck of the woods. But yeah, a self-actualization is a huge part of the Black Ponder. We do several themes here at the Black Ponder. We talk about freedom a lot. We talk about social activism a lot. And I'm really a huge proponent of that. Call me a SJW, whatever, I don't care. I take that as a compliment. But we talk about we try and talk about it in a philosophical way, because I think philosophy needs to I just think philosophy is an underutilized tool in the sphere of social activism. And I think a lot of the problems that we face in the world today are issues of social inequality, really, when you really even things like climate change and big issues like that. The economy, well, social economics, right? And I just don't think we're looking at these things philosophically. And I think a lot of people are well, philosophy is just this thing that people, they sit down in their armchair and, they smoke their cigars and, maybe they sip their teas. And that's not real, that's just some stuff that people talk about. A lot of times they talk about things that don't even apply to real life. Like, what is the existence of a chair? Does the chair actually exist, or is it an illusion? A lot of people have that impression with philosophy, and with good reason. A lot of philosophers, they just take it there, and they don't kind of leave that realm of philosophizing. And then KKKK, 4Ks, not 3. That's important. Says you're lovely. Cool. I guess you're referring to me, and you're lovely too because you use 4Ks, not 3. So that's very lovely to do. Yeah, but I like to push, or not even push. I guess it is push philosophy to real world issues. And I do think what are the problems that are facing human beings? The biggest issues there, social economic issues, right? And when we, and they're, how do we answer these problems? I mean, a lot of the answer is philosophical, right? And I think that's a big puzzle piece that we're missing and disregarding. And if we looked at them as philosophical problems, we could really start solving, beginning to solve these problems. Of course, it's not all philosophy. You gotta there's action involved, right? That's important. Gotta act. There's practice, right? But philosophy is definitely where it's at. So that's what we're gonna talk about, and we're doing that via self-actualization, right? So what is self-actualization? Well, I'll just begin with, everybody probably has heard of this. And if you didn't, it's fine. Don't feel left out. But you might have heard, this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Have you heard of it? Probably. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, a theory, a psychological theory by, some guy named Maslow. I learned it in high school. Right. Many people learn about it, but in case you don't know, I mean, you can just Google it. It's very, it's quite fascinating. Not everybody buys into it. Many people do. I'm one of those people who are like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. What he's talking about. So, I'll review. Highly familiar. Yeah, most people are. It's kind of like, those, what do they call those? Those personality tests, the NTJF. I think I'm an INJF or something. I forgot. It's like one of those kinds of things, nowadays. It's kind of, sometimes the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it gets, overplayed a lot. But I think it's very applicable and a very useful paradigm to gauging, a person's progression in life. I do think it's pretty useful, even though it might be a little bit too overplayed, and just to familiarize, maybe you forgot. So the idea is, look, to be a successful human being, or to, succeed in life, you need, your needs need to be met, and there are levels to your needs, right? So it's and he makes it like a pyramid, right? You say, look, first of all, you need your physiological needs to be met. So what's that? That's food, water, shelter, right? Your biological functions need to be supported. You need sleep. That's basic, right? So you need those met. If you don't have those met, you can't you can't proceed to succeeding as a human being, right? Now, some people would argue, I've talked to people who argue, well, no, actually, you can't skip that and go up to the, I don't know about that. Some people will say, you actually can't skip that, and then you can actually skip some of these levels, and you can go up. But I don't buy that. I don't buy that. We could talk about that if you one of those people who thinks that. And then you need to have your safety need met. That's next after you have your food, or your water, your shelter, your sleep. You gotta feel safe. You gotta feel secure. You gotta have a house that you can come into, a home where it's okay, I'm good. I don't feel like I'm being threatened. Like my life is not in danger right now. If my life is not in danger, okay, you need to you can't be in a constant state of danger. If you're in that state, then you can't move up. And then okay, so we got some comments. Despite its good intention, I don't think we should categorize necessities. Why not? Why don't you think we should categorize necessities? I think it's pretty dang important to categorize necessities. I'm a big fan of categories, to be quite honest with you. I know, some people will argue like, we categorize too much. That's the problem. We put everything in boxes, and but I think we just got to recognize the categories for what they are. They're just tools of organization. Like they're not like things we should lock ourselves down to, but they're a way of like, organizing our thoughts and organizing like the way we talk about things. Some people are like, I don't believe in categories. Like, well, yeah, sure, but I think categories are useful. Then you go to love and belonging, right? And this is, I know some people who are like, that's the one you should skip. Most people can skip. I don't know about that. I think love and belonging, you gotta have a sense of somebody that loves and cares about you. The idea is like, you can't succeed in life if you have no feeling of being loved, or like if you like go through life thinking nobody gives a damn about you, or like everybody hates you, then you're just gonna be stuck there, right? You need, like, we as human beings all seek love, and we all want to have a place to belong and a sense of community. And if we don't have that, then we're not going to progress as human beings. That makes sense to me. All right. And you keep going. Esteem. Then it's like, self-respect. You feel respected, right? You feel like, I matter. I mean something, right? People think I'm important, right? That's the next step. You gotta feel like appreciated. You gotta feel like you're here for a reason. You're doing something that actually matters, right? And maybe even other people feel like that. You have a sense that other people feel that way too. Okay, because then you say, Jeremy says, because politicians would relegate important factors like equal distribution of food, drinking water, safe neighborhoods, leisure times. What do you mean? Because they would relegate. They do that anyway, right? But I guess you're saying like, yeah, that's why they do that, because we categorize needs. Is that what you're saying? Like, because that's happening now, isn't it? When I go to my job, I have 1 hour break time. Water, I actually have to pay for clean water. Utility bills, distribution of food, I have to buy food. Safe neighborhoods, that's kind of regulated too, right? But so I would say like, yeah, that's currently happening. And it's not just politicians that do it, right? It's like corporations do that shit too, right? And just society in general. But you're saying like, yeah, that's the reason why that's occurring is because we categorize needs. Is that what you're saying? I would say like, that's not the reason why needs are relegated. The reason needs are relegated because people are greedy and they want to like, they want something in return for, they realize like, oh, I can actually sell necessities. I can actually make money. I can make profit off of like survival, right? And so like, capitalism, right? That's I would say like that's the issue, not so much the categorization. But feel free to continue. Anyway, you get your self-respect, then you go to self-actualization, which is the point where you're like, yes, now I know who I am, and I know why I'm here. I know what I want to do, and I'm gonna do it, right? I know my purpose. I know like the point of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Like I have a sense of myself, and now I can actualize it. I can manifest myself because I realize like the things that I'm good at and the things that I want to do in life, and now I could like accomplish them. That's the idea, right? And then you say we place so much importance on trying to be the best, self-actualization. Then let me do the thing that I always do, because sometimes there's this heart symbol that blocks the text. So let me just copy paste so I can read everything that you're saying. Paste. Oh, it didn't paste. Paste special unmat form. Okay, it didn't. Let me try that again. Oh, I see what's happening. Cool. Oh, we place so much importance on trying to be the best that we should just enjoy life the way it is. Yeah, but for many people, the way life is sucks, right? But you know that, right? Like, I was just at the, last night I was at a mutual aid feed. Like, it's we feed people who are just like starving, like they're homeless, or other, they don't have no money, so they can't actually buy food, right? So we give them, we prepare meals for them and give them out. They can't enjoy life the way it is, right? So what about, like, for many people, like, the way life is horrible, right? So, like, you gotta, like, figure out a way to improve your life. And it might not just be like, you might not be the one that can do it. It might be like the society has to change for your life to improve, right? I think I'm saying this because I'm not oriented towards a career. Would you equate self-actualization to a career? Nope, I would not. I definitely wouldn't equate self-actualization to my career. That's for damn sure. I can't complain about my job, but it's a nice job and everything. But like, that's not the point of me existing, right? That's not the reason why I'm here, in my opinion. That's just a way for me to like make money, right? Because you need money to survive. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. Hi, everybody. Oh, this is Ishmael. Hello. Am I late to the party? About 19 minutes or so, which is fine. I don't be tripping. And so, like, usually, like, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it ends at the self-actualization, right? Usually ends there. But then, when I was in high school, I actually saw another level. It was transcendence. Right, and then for the longest time, I didn't see that level, transcendence. Like, what do you mean? I didn't see it. I remember I would look it up again. I'm like, I want to look back to that Maslow's hierarchy. And then I would see a stop at self-esteem. I'm like, yeah, but in high school, they showed the transcendence, and I'm not seeing that. But apparently, like, that was expanded upon later. Maslow actually expanded his theory to include that later. So the simplified version stops at the self-actualization, but there's like a more in-depth one, and it includes other levels. But at the highest level is transcendence, right? And we can talk about that. But let me see here. Jeremy says life is meant to be pleasurable. It doesn't have to suck. Yeah, no, that's true. It doesn't have to suck, but it does for many people. It doesn't. It shouldn't have to. It shouldn't suck, but it does, right? Like if you're homeless, yeah, it fucking sucks, right? It shouldn't be that way. It's not meant to be that way, but it is, right? So, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it might, it could be a socioeconomic thing. It could be like you're suffering from a disease, right? You have like terminal cancer or something, or many other kinds of issues. Severe migraines, right? I mean, that's a thing. And then Stephen Ray, love you, man. Okay, cool. Thanks for the love. Nadia, I don't think they teach the transcendence level in schools, which are very capitalist, career oriented. Yes, because schools are capitalist and career oriented. This is true. And then I guess this for I don't see the ASCII characters here. I just see a box, but you say I think self-transcendence would be an interesting topic in the future. Well, we're going to talk about that now, and how that relates to self-actualization. The way I see self-actualization in a practical sense, someone should follow an unconventional path. Sorry, your message always gets blocked by this icon. So let me copy paste and do that. Boop. The way I see self-actualization in a practical sense. Check out my doggy. You see? Oh, you see it. I had to get the extension cord to reach the dag, but he don't care about that. His name is Balky. He's a Rottweiler pit bull mix, and he just had his dinner, so he's chilling now. And the way I see self-actualization in a practical sense, someone should follow an unconventional path. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's maybe you can expand on that. Someone should follow an unconventional path. That's self-actualization. Why should somebody follow an unconventional path for it to be self-actualization? Let's see. Ishmael says the transcendence is from Maslow's book, The Farther Reaches of Human Nature. Check it out. It's a great book. Cool. Yep, that's his expansion. In your opinion, what are the biggest differences between actualization and transcendence? Well, I would argue like not everybody gets to. That's the next level. That's the next level. So that's the difference. And some people will say like, oh, it's like a spiritual thing, as Maslow said. Like it's a transcendence is when you Maslow's idea is you realize like, oh, there's something greater than me. Like there's a higher purpose other than myself, right? There's something higher than me, or like, there's something like that's this grand unifier, and that's when people start getting spiritual or religious, or it's like, oh, we're all interconnected, interrelated, or like, now that I've self-actualized, like, oh, I know my purpose. I know the point I need to do in my life. I need to know. I know where I need to go, and I know who I am and where I need to go. Now the next step is like, how do I, connect that to like the higher purpose in life, whether that be God or the cosmos or like the great beyond, or maybe just like, the interconnected sense of like a community to a grander self, like, community, not just a bunch of human beings, but community in like all human beings. Like, how am I in relation to all other human beings? And then you can even expand that into like, oh, what about all life on the planet? And then maybe like all life in the universe. Like, what am I doing? How does that relate to this grand scheme of things? And so now you're transcendence. But I would like to like no, that's improper English. I would like to expand, or like, yeah, I use like a lot as a filler word. It's fine. Delve into that more and kind of put my own unique spin on it. Maybe we can talk about spiritual, but I kind of want to more gear it toward like what else, the interconnectedness and the ecological, which is another huge theme in the Black Panther, ecology, and the interdependence and the interrelation of all things, right? Which can, it doesn't have to be spiritual. Although, you can be spiritual if you want to do it. And then Jeremy says, because oftentimes following social norms and traditions don't fulfill our lives. For example, marriage and the mainstream romantic image of it. Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah, that's true. For many people, they just was like, dude, I'm not, I'm not about this. Like they realize that it takes a lot because you have to literally like think outside social conditioning. No, that's true. It's like, you know, people who are like, yeah, I'm actually not a man or a woman. I'm just like, that's an example. Not me, but, you know, just somebody thinking like, I'm a gender non-conforming. Like, I'm a non-binary. Like, I don't fit in this, like, male-female paradigm, right? And now you're like, oh, you're self-actualizing at that point. And you can go on and on. Like, the example is like, you know, for me, example for me is like, you know, reading the Bible. You know, I grew up Christian, and I started really like examining the Bible, and I started getting, you know, talking to people who were not Christian, and I'm like, you know, I like this Christian thing, but a lot of these things in the Bible are problematic, right? Maybe I need to like really think, you know, create an unconventional understanding of Christianity. That might be my way of doing things, right? And then, so yeah, that's true. That's true. In the esteem part of the hierarchy, freedom is essential. Yep, freedom is essential. Yep, you gotta be able to. Yep, freedom is essential. Just all over the place. But yeah, I see what you're saying. And then Booker says, okay, I need to copy and paste that. And then highlight, and then color. Okay, and then, okay. Do you think there has to be a self first before having it actualized, or for a self to be a purpose or something like that? If so, how does a self come about? Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, I have to think about that for a minute. For example, you know, you have Buddhists. Buddhists believe like there is no self, right? And many many Hindus believe that too. There is no self. There is no self, right? So like the self-actualization comes with the realization. Well, I get well. Actually, though, this is interesting, right? So you become a Buddhist, you're self-actualized, and then with Buddhism, you realize, wait a minute, there is no self. Now you're transcendent. You reach enlightenment. You know, it's the level where you reach nirvana, and it's like, so maybe that's the difference, right? For a Buddhist or like, you know, other religions that kind of or, you know, ways of thinking where it's like, you know, actually there is no self, right? But do you need a self to have actualization to self? Yeah, I do think so. I think even like the Buddhist, for instance, who doesn't believe in it, has to like reach that self-actualization. So they have to like confront the concept of the self. So they have to like come to meet the idea of the self for them, right? And then after they've like confronted the idea of the self, that self that they are, they realize, wait, this is an illusion. It's not real, right? You know, and so like, so yeah, like so you self-actualized. So now you're doing your Buddhist thing, and then you've abandoned the self. Now you're at the transcendence level. So I would think like, yeah, I think you would still need to have the self, even though for people who believe like there is no such thing as a self. I would still argue like, well, you have to confront that. First you have to know what self is, right? I think you have to wrestle with that. You have to wrestle with that. Yeah, I don't think it could be the case that, you know, maybe it could, that you just flat out just immediately know, like, you know, from the beginning when you're a baby, like there's no there's no me. There's only we, right? You gotta learn that. What do you think of the term other? What does it fall in Maslow's concept? I don't know. I don't know how Maslow interpreted other. I did read his report, Maslow's little essay, or it wasn't. It was like an academic paper or something about this. It wasn't even that long in high school, but I forgot. I think, do I have? I might. Oh no, I don't think I have a copy of it anymore. It's actually pretty short. I think it was funny because early in the Black Ponder YouTube channel, I was thinking about doing. So I had to, at some point, I had it. I was thinking about doing a video, and then I was looking at it, and I was like, I don't think there's enough content here to do a video about it. But maybe I should read it again. But I don't know what he feels about other. But to me, like, I mean, there's a whole like, I kind of embrace the social activist idea of the other, the othering, where when you call somebody, when xenophobia, like you are afraid of people who immigrate to your country, is like you're othering them, like, or like homophobia is like you're not really afraid of different sexualities. What you're afraid of is this other thing, right? And really, it's a mistake. Like you're separating someone from somebody you're actually connected to, but you're othering them, but the othering serves like this higher like social economic control purpose. Like by othering somebody, that feeds into like capitalist and imperialist agendas and motivations, and that's when I hear the word other. The term other, like that concept. I'm pretty sure Maslow's not thinking that, right? But to me, that's what like othering is. And where did I go here? Do you think you can achieve self-transcendence without mastering or attaining the lower elements of the pyramid? Yeah, I don't think so. And I know there are people who disagree with that, who say like, no, you actually can I talked to several people who were like, yeah, that's some BS. Like, you could just skip physiological needs, right? Like, if you got enough willpower, right? Or sometimes people will argue, like, they'll say, like, well, actually, like, if you, like, starve yourself or like, live a very, like, meager life, you can reach higher levels. But, I mean, isn't that the story of Buddha, right? The Siddhartha? Like, he tried to do that, and it didn't work, right? But maybe, like, these people are saying that, like, well, that's why I'm not a Buddhist, right? Because I do believe, like, you could do that. But I don't think you can skip levels. That's why I'm like, I think that Maslow, he has, he's got something going here. Like, I think he's, it might be, this pyramid might be overplayed, but I don't know, I think you can't really skip those levels. And I think that's very important to acknowledge, because then we can construct a society that provides those needs. Now, somebody was saying before, was like, well, the problem is you'll start regulating these needs in a restrictive way. But I mean, I would argue like we do that anyway, and like the people who are doing that don't know anything about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think like if we acknowledge like all human beings, for human beings to succeed, you need to have your physiological needs met. Then we need to live in a world where everybody's physiological needs can be met. And it's like, and if you're regulating to the point where that's not happening, then that's like incorrect regulation. Right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's important because you can shape a society off of this. Now, of course, you can take it overboard. But if we live in a world, and now I guess I'll get all socialist, where like food is free, you don't have to pay for it. You've got free water. Like, there's no utility bills. Housing is free, like basic physiological, and then you can keep going up. Like okay, let's focus on safety. right? So how do we, you can have that whole discussion. And if you acknowledge, like, well, people can't really succeed as human beings if these needs aren't being met, right? And I think that isn't very acknowledged in our society. It really isn't. It's like, well, actually, you can kind of like grit your teeth, or like, go by the seat of your pants, or like, all these phrases, these Americanisms, because that's what they are, American points of view of like, just keep pushing forward. But it's like, dude, no, like your needs need to be met before you can progress in life, right? Let's see here. And then Jeremy says, do you have a bucket list? That's something to achieve self-actualization, experiencing beautiful things. I don't have a bucket list. I mean, I have goals in my life, but I mean, I'm not to be cocky, but I mean, if I were to pass away, I mean, I wouldn't trip. I guess the only thing would be like, well, no, I actually, because I have a good, I've kind of worked things out, life insurance wise, where if I think people will get taken care of, my loved ones get taken care of. That's a very privileged position to be in. But I do have goals. Like, I do want to achieve things, for sure. But I don't have anything like, I have to do this before I die. And if I die before I do this thing, it'll be tragic. It'll be horrible. I don't have that. I don't have that. So, yeah, I know. Is that so? Bucket list, is that? I mean, for some people, that could be like their self-actualization would be achieving their bucket list. That's cool. I don't think that's for everybody, but yeah. So self-actualization is different for different people, I would say. And then where are we at? Ishmael says, Maslow thought that in order to move up his pyramid, you have to secure the previous level. Other psychologists criticize Maslow on that point. Yeah. He got a lot of criticism. I don't know, I think he has a point. I think it makes sense. But it's like, what is it? It's a paradigm. Like, it's a framework. So it's not like 100%. I equate it to like, I think, I also disagree a lot with a lot of what Sigmund Freud says. But I do think like the ego, the super ego, and the id, I think he had a point. Like, I think he's on to something there. Like that whole paradigm, I think that is how the mind operates, but it in an abstract way. Like, you can't like pinpoint like, okay, this part of the brain is where the id is. That part of the brain is where the ego is. That specific area of the brain, that's where the super ego. No, it's like, it's an abstraction, right? So like, I do think like there is an ego, and then there is a super ego, and it happens in the mind. And I do think it's on the mind different from the brain, right? The mind is an abstraction of how the brain works, right? So, and I think that's how the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is. It's like, yeah, I think generally speaking, like, you probably do need those needs met before you can move up. Are there exceptions? Probably, but I think generally, like, this is probably how human beings work, right? And some psychologists would disagree. I mean, which is fine. Not all scientists in a specific field agree with everything that they say. Right? There's like debate. That's fine. And then Jeremy Borno says, I wish we could all come together to meet our needs. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice if we lived in a world where that was a priority. Or like, guys, let's all, people, let's all just come together and let's just meet our needs. Right? But no, that's not the priority. What is the priority? Guys, let's just like, profit off of each other and like make as much money as possible, right? Let's make like the making a profit. That's the most important thing. Let's all come together and do that. And if we're gonna do that, then some people got to be exploited. So not everybody's gonna get what they want. But that's what the priority we've made. Profit over needs being met. That's sad, but yeah, I wish that would be nice. By achieving the hierarchy steps, do you consider it individualistic or collective? It's both. It's both individualistic and collective. That's important. That's one thing I got from Hegel when I read a lot of his work. The idea of the contradiction in the cycling to and from is like, can you be both collective and individual at the same time? Individualistic. Hegel thought so. It's called a contradiction, and he thought life is a contradiction. That's how life works. It's a contradiction. So there is, to be a collective needs individuals, and individuals need a collective, right? That's how a collective is a collective because of individuals, and individuals are individuals because there is a collective, right? And because that's that constant contradiction. So, advancing through the hierarchy of needs, you need to be individualistic and you need to be collective. And the Vibe writes, if we view self-actualization as bearing a fruit, as being fully human, what does it mean if I'm not wrong? What does being fully human mean? Okay, let me see here. Did I read that? Bearing fruit as being fully human. What does it mean? So what does it mean to be fully human? We don't know. That's the thing, right? We have no idea what it means to be a human being. None. Zero. We know, is it like a DNA sequence? Right. No, that's not what it is. What does it mean to be human? Nobody can answer that question. I mean, they can say you gotta have this certain genetic code. It's well, no, right? There's more to it than that, right? But what is it, right? We don't know. The point is, if to go back to the Hegelian point of view, is it's the discovery of being a human. What does it mean to be human? That's something we need to figure out. We gotta let's discover that. Let's find that out, because Hegel believed that life is about going from something to something. That's the important part. It's not the destination, the cliche. It's not about the destination, it's a journey. But more specifically, it's about the going from to, right? And so what does it mean to be human? To be human is to discover what it means to be human. That's what it means to be human. It's to discover that. Right? That's what it means to be human. We need to figure this out, right? And so what's the answer? That's not what's important. What's important is the searching, the seeking of it. And that's important because that's not what we do today. We don't prioritize that. We're just told okay, you're this because you're this, right? I mean, there's so many examples of that. I mean, obviously the one is gender. You're a man, so you need to be this, and this. You're a woman, so this, and this. There's nothing in between. Or a race, you could say that. I call myself the Black Ponder. Well, you're black, so you need to do this, and this. And, I call myself the Black Ponder for many reasons. One of them is to, what does that mean, right? And it isn't we don't need to think about that. No, we do need to think about that. That's the whole point. We need to figure out, what does this mean? Blackness, and then we could, that's a whole thing to go into right there, which I've done in several, but I have a whole playlist about that if you're curious about, what it means to be black and stuff. But we're told, we're just told, this is what you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do. This is who you're supposed to become. And it's like, well, can I figure that out by myself? Can we you know, evaluate like, is that correct? Right? But nobody, like, nobody is saying, like, when you ask those questions, it's like, wait a minute, is this right? Like, you're telling me I need to be aggressive, dominant, and violent as a man. Like, is that true? And then you're like ostracized, you're criticized, like, shut up and get with the program. So, or, you know, you use the whole capitalist thing, like, oh, you know, you're supposed to, like, you know, be an entrepreneur. You're supposed to, you know, or work for a corporation. You're supposed to make money, you know, and you're supposed to make a profit. You know, it's like, dark. Is that the goal? Like, is that what we're supposed to do in life? And then you ask these things. It's like, what are you, a socialist? What are you, like a communist? You know, what's wrong with you? It's like, I'm just asking questions here. So, you know. So that's what it means to be human. To me, it means like discovery, discovering, trying to answer that question. That's self-actualization. It's like, oh, now I'm starting to get a clue as to what it means to be human. Now, what is it? I don't know, but I'm starting to figure it out. Right? That's self-actualization. It's like what was said before. I think Jeremy said that unconventional. You know, thinking like, oh, you know, maybe it's what I am is not like described by what I've been told I'm supposed to be in life, right? But it's not just that. You know, some people, they do fit in those conventional boxes. That's cool too, but not everybody does. Right? So, what does it mean to be human? It's so expansive. Like the answer, such a diverse answer. And then Jeremy says Maslow's hierarchy would be contradictory and complex to understand too. What's the difference between actualizations and transcendence to you? For me, transcendence is overcoming all of some forms of limitations and categorization. Practically speaking, not being defined by labels. Mm-hmm. So for me, like, you're still in self-actualization mode, but that's just me. Transcendence to me is like, okay, now I know who I. It's kind of like when you know, if you know the story of the Buddha, and he reaches enlightenment, right? And he's still in self-actualization. He's in nirvana, and then like, I think he talks to like the gods or something, and the gods say, "Can you please go back to like to the normal realm and teach what you learned? Because we can't do it, and it's so valuable." And Buddha's like, eventually he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll do that." That's transcendence, right? That's transcendence when you're like, you know what? Now I know who I've discovered this thing about me, but now I'm gonna relate it to others, right? And you realize like it's not just about me, right? That's transcendence when you realize this isn't about me, right? You know, you could get all religious about it, right? Where you know, lots of stories is about like it's God like descending back down. You know, Jesus was that, and it was like it's not all about omnipotence. No, I have to like, you know, it's about like sharing my knowledge or my power or my love with others, right? In the best way that I can. To me, that's transcendence when it's like, so you say, so you're not being defined by labels. You're like, yeah, you know, I'm not these labels. Okay. Now, let me dismantle the labels. Right? Maybe the labels are. Let me show you why these labels are illegitimate, right? Or like why they're harmful or why they're confusing, right? That's where you start getting the transcendence, where it's like, I am not these labels, and maybe you're not too, and let me show you why. Right? To me, that's when you're into the realm of transcendence. Basically, transcendence is to the point. Self-actualization is about like you. right? It's like the highest point of you, but there's even higher level to reach, and that's when it becomes not about you anymore. Then it's like, oh, it's now you're really in this realm of like a higher plane of existence, where it's like, oh, all this time I just thought it was about me, but I realize like this has nothing to do with me. Right? This has everything to do with everything else. Right? And you know, like we said about the self, is like, oh, there is no self. Right? That's the transcendence. That's the difference between me. The way I feel about the difference between actualization and transcendence. Actualization is about the self. Transcendence is when you like, I don't want to say transcend the self, but when you utilize the self to transcend to transcend into the realm of everything else, right? And then you say, from what you just explained, labels limit our understanding of being human, in my opinion. Yeah, they do limit. Only to the point where you start thinking like the labels are all there is to be human, right? Labels are useful, but you can't be limited by them, right? You create more labels, or you just acknowledge like, okay, these are just the best we can do to describe the situation, but we don't know. You know, it's like, I mean, there's so many examples, like, you know, like, for example, in outer space, there are black holes, right? And then, you know, to the center point of a black hole, inside the black hole, the center point is the singularity, right? What is that? We don't know. And scientists, you know, most scientists will say like, we have no idea what that is. We just call it a singularity. And then it's like, you know, mathematically, what does that mean? Well, mathematically, we say that's the point where there's a division of zero. What does it mean to divide by zero? You know, in school, when you divide by zero, you just write undefined. Like 1 divided by 0 equals undefined. Right? You know, what does that mean? It's like, well, we don't know. We haven't defined it, right? But it's not like, you know, it is still useful to say like undefined. Right? That's a label, but it's just we acknowledge like, yeah, that's a label we use, but it indicates that we lack knowledge in that area. The singularity, like, yeah, we call it a singularity. That's a label, but that's not telling us that we know what it is. Right? It's useful. It's just a name we use to communicate. Right? Another example is, you know, I consider myself a feminist. I have a whole playlist on feminism, many videos, and you know, not all feminists agree on everything, right? That's a mistake people commonly make. They listen to one feminist, it's like, yeah, that's why feminism sucks. It's like, well, understand, like, there are many points of views in feminism, right? One point of view, an extreme point of view, is like, we need to do away with masculine and feminine. Like, those are useless concepts. Like, there's no masculine, there's no feminine, there's only like people, right? And that may be true, but you know, I think it is useful to say like, look, like, there's a spectrum, right? And you know, either side there's like masculine and then there's feminine. And I would say like, well, maybe it's the case like most human beings fit in the middle of that. They're not like, you know, 100% masculine, 100% feminine. They're in the middle. And then, you know, some would argue like, well, there's some people that don't fit in the spectrum. They're like over here somewhere, right? Which is fine. But I still think it's useful to have the masculine and feminine because it's a way that we understand like gender, right? You know, it's a way for us to like just talk about gender, like, but we gotta acknowledge like, okay, but that's not the whole picture, and that might not even describe the actual situation. But it's just useful to use. So labels are important, I think, but we just gotta recognize the limits of the labels. That's all. And then you say, in a way, we connect the self to everything around us, like nature, family, community, morality, society, hierarchy, etc. Yeah. But most people don't do that, right? Most people separate the self from all those things. That's a huge problem that we have. That's a problem that's causing a lot of turmoil in our lives. Like, we're like, we separate. We don't understand that the individual is the collective. The collective is an individual. We're just like, no, we're all just like individuals. Right? And so, like, what I do doesn't have anything to do with what somebody else is doing. Like, but that's like so far from the truth, right? Right. Which is one thing. Well, no, that's a whole other. I was gonna mention something, but that's like a whole other rabbit hole. Let me not go there, but yeah, that's definitely a thing. Like, people don't acknowledge how the self is connected to other things. And then this person says, Siddhartha, I just, your name is like, it doesn't register for me. It's just like a box. It's like, I don't have the ASCII characters. Siddhartha is one of the most enlightening books I've ever read. It is possible for you to discuss that book in the future, maybe some type of book club. Yeah, I might do Siddhartha. I actually read that book in high school. Yeah, I guess I could definitely put in my queue of books to talk about. Yeah, I should probably reread that book. Yeah, it was a nice book. Some people say that book's overrated. I've talked to some people, but I'm gonna read it. I actually don't remember much about it. Funny enough. I should, that's a book I should like check out at the library again. Because I did read that book in high school, but that was, I'm old. It's a long time ago. But yeah, in terms of a book club, I don't know if I want to start that. I'm already in 2 book clubs, which is great, very fun. So just for my selfish, like, that's just too much. And then I'm organizing another book club. No, thank you. But maybe I'll make a video out of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's how I feel like self-actualization. I keep saying the word like. I just constantly saying. I used to be side tangent. I was a member of this global organization. It's called Toastmasters. Very popular. Like, you might have heard of it. I think it was a little bit more popular than it is now. Toastmasters is just like a non-profit organization where you give public speeches in front of people, inform clubs, just to overcome public speaking fear, or they also teach you like leadership skills. It was something I did on the side. It was fun, but kind of got I think I reached my limit. But one of the things they teach you in Toastmasters is to get rid of those filler words, like They actually have a counter, during the meetings you give a speech, and there's a person that sits there and like tallies up the times you say like, that's another one, all these words. I use them a lot. I'm just going off topic. It's funny because I also used to be in radio. Because Toastmasters, they would promote like just be silent. But I used to do radio shows in college, and one thing they teach you in radio is dead air, which is like silence. That's like the worst thing you could do. Like, if people are listening to the radio and they hear like a few seconds of silence, they just feel like changing the channel. They like, something's wrong. So you want to not have dead air. So you want to use filler words like you want to say. So it's funny because I was trained in that way in radio, And then I go to Toastmasters, and I've reverted back to my radio persona. But dead air is, this isn't radio. This is YouTube. So, I feel that as part of my vernacular. That's just part of my personality. I'm just being natural. It's fine. Okay, and then let me see these final questions. Here's an example. How would feminism benefit both individuals and collective? By the way, do you get tired of me asking a lot of questions? No, we're just hanging out. We're just having a good time. Nothing wrong with you asking questions. Yeah, we're just hanging out. That's how it is. Pretend it's like just us chilling on the couch or something. So yeah, that's all the questions you want. But how does feminism, the individuals, classic example. A feminist. So, I'm trying to think of a more general example. Let's say you're a biological man, right? And you're just born biologically male, like somebody like me, right? And you've been told, like, dude, you gotta be more aggressive. You gotta be more aggressive. You gotta be assertive, right? You gotta stop being so shy, dude. You gotta be a man. Gotta be a man. Men are like dominant, And then maybe you see, a girl that you like as a little kid. I'm just making this up, but this is relevant. You see a girl that you like, and you ask them like, "Hey, would you like to go on a date?" And the girl's like, "No, no, thank you." And you're like, oh, "Okay, fine." And then so your guy friends come over, and they're like, "Dude, you can't accept no. You gotta play hardball. You gotta like keep asking. You can't quit like that. You gotta be assertive. You gotta be aggressive, right?" But no means no, right? but women like that. Women like you being assertive and shit, right? And so how does this play into like feminism? Is like, well, maybe we should accept different definitions of being a man, right? Maybe all men are not assertive, right? Maybe it's good that all men aren't assertive. Maybe men, some men are docile, but that's not what it means to be a man, right? Well, some men are docile, some men are calm, some men are submissive, right? And I think if we accept it, and so what happens is like, let's go through the actualization, the collective, and what was the question? Individual and collective. So as an individual, you're like, I think I'm more chill. I'm more docile. I can take no for an answer. I'm cool. Now you're realizing like, yeah, I'm a cool, I'm just not an aggressive person. That's just not who I am. Then you start realizing like, hey, you know what? I can deal with a lot of situations in a calm, cool, collective manner. I can solve a lot of problems non-aggressively. Right? I don't have to dominate situations to like achieve goals. Now you're self-actualizing. You're realizing like, okay, this is who I am, and I'm cool with that, and I can actually move forward in life. Now, you realize like that's a skill. Like, maybe you go into situations and you're like, I'm always cool and collective, and I don't like to dominate situations. I'm not very assertive. I'm gonna be like a peacemaker. Maybe like a negotiator. Maybe I'll do that in my life. Maybe I'll de-escalation. So in social media, social activist world, there's this concept de-escalation, where it's kind of like a non-violent organizing methodology. Because oftentimes when you're doing social activist work, like protests or like rallies, you don't necessarily want to have the cops involved when things go down, because sometimes cops can like make the situation worse. Sadly enough, we've told police officers protect us, but oftentimes they don't. And you know, if you watch the news, you'll see that's true. So sometimes we gotta take matters into our own hands. So how do you do that? We don't. So when things get crazy, and people start like arguing to the point where, oh, this is about to get violent. There's like workshops. There's all these social activist groups that do like workshops and seminars and teach-ins where they teach you about de-escalation. Where it's like, oh, you know, you actually can like resolve issues non-violently. If you see two people like about to get aggressive, you can like, you know, you as a group, many people can step in and they can de-escalate it. And you might be like the person who was told like, be a man, you're not aggressive. They could be very good at doing that. Maybe like, yeah, I'm just not aggressive, and I don't like domination, so I can do that. I could go into these. I could be a de-escalator. So when we have protests and rallies that for support with civil rights, or like, you know, even like strikes, like labor union strikes. A lot of those are happening right now, and things get crazy. I could be the guy that comes in and like, hey man, calm down. You know, this ain't cool. You know, let's talk about this, and you might be able to diffuse a lot of situations that might have popped off, and you know, cops could have came, and it could have been a lot worse. And so now, like, you're using your individual skill to help the collective, right? And so you're doing that by taking a feminist approach, because you're rejecting like the patriarchal definitions of what it means to be a man, right? You're like, yeah, that whole like men need to be violent dominators. Yeah, no, fuck that, right? Right. And so that in that way, feminism contributes, benefits both individuals and collective. And then the vibe says, banking concept, where reality is the thought of others being imposed on an individual, so reality becomes very segmented, messes with the mind. Not sure exactly I got what you said, but when you said banking, I just thought like a financial bank. This is probably not what you meant at all, but yeah, I was just talking to a few people about, you know, like banking. The banking system is just it's just a social construct in and of itself, right? Like just trading stocks and bonds, they're just like concepts in the mind, right? The market itself is just like, it's not even real, right? We make it real, right? Which is crazy if you really think about it. Like, you know, trading stocks and bonds, and investing and all this stuff, and it's like, it's all just like fiction. It's not based off of like reality. It's just we make it real because we believe in it, right? That's why the market crashes so much, or like we get these like recessions and these depressions, and because what happens is, what, like, I'm not an economist, but I'll tell you, like, you know, I'm a philosopher. And, you know, somebody who's read political philosophy and social economic philosophy like Marx and such. You know, the market will crash because people realize, wait a minute, this isn't real. And then everything just like tumbles down because people realize what I'm invested in doesn't mean nothing. Right? It's kind of like, you know, the whole thing with GameStop, and that when their stock just went up. Why did it go up? Because everybody just believed like, oh, I should invest in GameStop. Why? Because everybody else is saying it. And then after a while, people realized, wait a minute, GameStop is like, the company is like on its way to bankruptcy. It's like, it's not like a company corporation that's gonna have much of a future in our modern society of how people play games and video games. And people realized that, and then the stock just didn't, it just went back down, right? Because it's all fiction. It's all, you know, banking the reality of thought of others being imposed on, I mean, our financial systems are definitely like false realities that are imposed upon us. You probably didn't even mean that, but that's what I thought. And Dr. Squires says, you're the man. Cool. Thanks. And then Jeremy says, for next, can you please make a hangout about fiction? I have a lot to say about it. It reverts back to the book banning video you did. Well, we have to be a bit more specific, right? Should I say what is fiction? No, we gotta get a little bit more specific than that. If you're saying like, you know, why are fiction books being banned? I'll do maybe something like that. But didn't we already do that? Didn't we already talk about book banning? I would have to get something a bit more specific than just generally fiction. But just to summarize what the whole topic of discussion is like the self-actualization. What is it? It's like it's when you realize, this is just me, Neil Trotter, not Maslow. Neil Trotter is saying like self-actualization is when you discover who you are as a person. You might not know what that is specifically, but you're to a point where it's like, okay, I know, like you begin to discover it, right? Because do we really, even when we're like, I know who I am, do you really? Right? But you know what you're not, right? Are you like, you have an understanding of, okay, I'm not these things, but I'm inclined to be these things, right? Yeah, now I have a purpose. Now I can like be productive in the world. Like I can construct things in a meaningful way because I can use who I am, who I've discovered, to achieve those goals, like to achieve that constructive contribution to society, right? That's self-actualization. But then, so transcendence is when, okay, I found out who I am. I'm contributing these things, but what does that all mean in the grand scheme of things? Right? How am I doing? How am I like interacting with the world overall? Right? And then, and it's not only that, it's like, how can what I do make the world a better place? And then it's even more than that, right? Because it's not even about like I anymore. It's like, wait a minute, I exist in this world where there's all these other people and other things, and I play this part. Now that I know who I am, I can play that part in a meaningful, constructive, progressive way. Right? That's transcendence. It is like, oh, like I see how I relate to the world and what I can do to make that contribution meaningful. And in that sense, like, oh, this is not even about me. It's about what I'm doing, right? In relation to the world, right? That's the transcendence, right? So basically, why is self-actualization important? Because self-actualization is how you get to the transcendence, which is the ultimate goal, right? Because in the end, that's what it's all about, right? It's not really about us. It's not about it's not about me, Neil Trotter. Is this about Neil Trotter? No, it has nothing to do with Neil Trotter. Neil Trotter is just, part of the universe reaching whatever it needs to go to, right? Or whatever it wants, or whatever it's going to. And by me saying, oh, this is how I contribute to that, right? That's to me, like, that's when you're like, oh, okay, this is the meaning of life, right? That's when you get really philosophical about it. That's just me. And then for next, can you please make a hangout about? Oh yeah, I already read that. Sure. What is the importance of fiction? Yeah, but isn't that obvious, right? I mean, that's so like. I mean, reading Rainbow taught you that, right? No, maybe you didn't reach. Maybe you're too young. to know to see Reading Rainbow. But when I was a kid, there was a there's Reading Rainbow. It was a LeVar Burton, the guy with the visor from Star Trek, and the slave from Roots, and he taught us why fiction was important and why we should read. I don't know. I feel like that topic is too obvious, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, and that would be my recommendation. If you have that question, let me just like connect you to like Reading Rainbow YouTube videos, because LeVar Burton will answer that question for you. Speaking of fiction, you ever read Herman? No, I never read that person. He is definitely kind of a writer about self-discovery, self-actualization. Okay, I think authenticity is the root of self-improvement. Okay, I will look the person up for sure. Copy. It's not a. Just notate this. Okay. And then do that. Oops. Okay, sorry, I meant our educational system gives us a reality that hinders achieving self-actualization. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. We talked. Now that was a topic we talked about extensively. I think it's like, is university college worth it? Yeah, we definitely talked for a long time about how our education system does not serve the purpose of self-actualization. But I encourage you to check out that live stream. Or what is the importance of imagination? It's not obvious to most people. What is the importance of imagination? Okay, now I think that's cool. Where's my phone? Because I definitely have something to say about that. I'm trying to think. Didn't I do a video about? I feel like I've done a video about that, but yeah, I will definitely. Yeah, what is the important imagination? That I can jive with, because imagination is very important in the field of social activism. So I'm gonna do that. Let's see here. I got a list of topics. I don't know if that'll be the next one, but that will be a one. What is the importance of imagination? And then activist work. Hopefully I'll remember based off that. Based on the approach you use in educating us, called a banking system of education. Thanks. Okay, cool. Steppenwolf is definitely Herman Best. Okay, you did a video about Aristotle's imagination versus belief. Oh yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah. I'm just trying to recall, like, because I already, when you proposed that topic, I already know what I'm gonna say with what's the importance of imagination. It's probably not what you would think. And I was just trying to remember, did I say what I'm thinking I'm gonna say in that video? I don't think I did. So yeah, or maybe I did, but yeah, I could definitely expand upon that. So that's cool. Cool. Yeah, so I did talk about it. So first, I would encourage Jeremy to check out that video if you haven't seen it yet, because I do talk a lot about imagination. But I can further talk about that for sure. I have to rewatch that video and see if I don't want to repeat myself. but I don't think I will. Okay, so if nobody has any other comments or questions, I think it's time to check out and conclude. But I just want to thank everybody for joining me this Saturday night. For me, you could have went to a club. I mean, I don't know what you're talking. I know, like Ishmael, it's like 4 a.m. for him or something. So, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's like 2 o'clock or something in the morning. But I was free Saturday night, so so thank you for hanging out with me, whatever time it is for you. And I'll see you next week. I should be doing something next week with another live stream. And of course, I'll always have those videos about the philosophical texts that are coming out eventually. I'm reading multiple books at the same time. I don't have them on me. I guess the last thing I'll do, I will give you a preview of the books. Let me get them right quick. See, this is what's cool about the live stream. Get a sneak peek. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So these are 2 books. I'm part of 2 book clubs. And these are 2 books I'm reading at the same time. 1 a.m. Well, thanks a lot. I'm probably going to come out with... Well, I don't know. So this is a book about... Essentially, this is a book about anarchism. Towards Collective Liberation by Chris Crass. So this is a book about anarchism, and so we're gonna have a video about this. That's cool. And this is a pretty popular book, all about love, bell hooks. I'm a huge fan of bell hooks. And that's a book about love. So, and then we're gonna talk about that. So that's, those are the next videos I'm going to make on those. And I think after that, I'm probably going to do the Aristotle's rhetoric. I think it will be. So that'd be cool. But I got to mix it up because I did, I can't just be doing the classics. I got to mix them up with modern philosophy too. And I got to do political philosophy because a lot of people discount the political. But it's important. It's important. Of course, we got to talk about love as well. All right. Well, yep. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. And I'll see you later. Hell yeah. Anarchism bell hooks. Yeah. Radical. Peace out. Cool. Bye-bye.